Yeah, g'day everybody. Wade Northhausen here for Billboard Battalion. Today is Wednesday the 16th of July 2025 and we're currently in Bendigo, the day before the Victorian Farmers Federation Livestock conference here. So we're very happy to be able to catch up with Brett Hosking, who, I suppose the new president of the Victorian Farmers Federation. It's been a little while now, but it's still good to say that. And we were talking to Brett on the phone yesterday about a lot of the things that are happening with regard to agriculture in Australia. And so Brett's been very happy to talk to us tonight here, which we're very grateful, because there's a lot happening in the field of agriculture and we really need to start bringing people up to speed with what's going on. So the reason that I phoned Brett up was to talk about what we talk about a lot with the international health regulations that are coming into effect. Australia has until the 19th of this month, which is only 4 days away, to pull out of this international health regulations and what they call the One Health policy. And so the reason I called Brett was to say, we're trying to get people to pull out of this, and I was a bit surprised that when we were talking to Brett, as quite a lot of other farmer representatives and so on, Brett didn't know much about the international health regulations. And I know it sounds a little bit, what's that got to do with farmers? You think pandemics, World Health Organization, vaccinations, lockdowns, all the rest of it. You think, what's that got to do with agriculture? But anyway, so we might let you just, say you haven't heard of this stuff before, it's all new.
Yeah, no, I wasn't aware of it, Wade. Obviously, we have good engagement with government, we have good engagement with industry, and it's not something that had come up, in any of our interactions or discussions with government. So.
Well, it's interesting that here in Bendigo, the federal Labor member here is Lisa Chesters, and we've been trying now for quite some time to get an interview with Lisa Chesters to ask her about this, because at the minute it's the Labor Party in government here in Australia, and they are the ones who have to sign, write to the WHO and withdraw. It's up to them, and you can't even get to talk to her. Her office tell us that they don't receive emails, and when I offered to come personally hand deliver the letter, they then miraculously came up with, oh well, look, we've passed the message on. So that means, in political terms, as you know, that means rack off. Not interested in talking to you, don't want to. And the purpose of that was to try and do an interview with a Labor member to talk about these things so that people could understand what it's about. And so therefore she was definitely not interested, and other ones we've spoken to do not want to go there. So just to try and bring people up to speed, what we're dealing with for these IHRs is this would give literally the World Health Organization the power to shut down agriculture. And that's the very short version. And obviously there's a lot more to it. But these treaties would give the World Health Organization the power, literally, one man, to say, we have a pandemic in the world. Somewhere there's a disease that they're going to call a pandemic. And then that would trigger this treaty whereby literally the WHO totally takes our country over and controls everything that happens. Now, the World Health Organization, in conjunction with the United Nations and the World Economic Forum, for decades, like over half a century, have been putting together strategies to wind things down. And one of the big things that they want to take out is agriculture. They want to wipe it out. And you go right back to many of the treaties that have been signed, many of the UN organised groups and so on. All the member states, the countries meet and they work out, oh yes, we're going to bring down this and bring down that. And one of the main things was the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. 178 countries all came together and agreed to start bringing in a global policy to wind down production, agriculture, food, etc., etc. So here today in Victoria, there's a lot happening in farming across Australia. We're seeing the live sheep exports being shut down. We've got massive dramas with farmland and all this renewable energy infrastructure, huge problems there. And you and I go back to the day when, the Murray-Darling Basin plan was being brought into effect. So those couple of things there, Brett, you might just give us a quick overview on what that's doing to agriculture, those issues.
Yeah, I think agriculture is always, by nature of who we are, what we do, and where we live, we're very different to those who live in urban areas, and I think we have the same values ultimately, but we have a different way of seeing the world, and we have different life experiences, and that we have seen. Yes, we've seen what the tragedy that's been caused by Murray-Darling Basin Plan, the impact it's had on small communities, the impact it's had on families, on businesses. We are seeing a rollout of transmission lines and renewable energy projects that seem to be done in a way that's not engaging with those who manage and look after and care for and ensure our land and our farmland is sustainable and there for future generations. And they're not partnering with these landholders, they're actually running over the top of them. We're seeing it with mineral sands mining in Victoria, where there's a raft of issues. At the same time, we are facing the challenges of climate with drought, and our state here in Victoria and our farmers, our rural communities are really feeling the pain of all of that. So there is always a lot happening in agriculture. It's never a dull moment. And I think, I think one of the challenges we have often when it comes to that disconnect between rural people, between farming communities and a lot of the urban people, is that the urban people seem to so often get an idea that we're going to do something that'll make the planet better, we're going to do something that'll care for the planet, that'll save the planet potentially, and that's the sort of language they use often when they come into our communities. And what they don't quite realise is that people who have been growing our food and fibre and doing so for decades have been dealing with droughts, and have been dealing with floods, have been dealing with fires, have been dealing with all the challenges around biosecurity and things like that come into our country. They've actually already been saving the planet for decades already, and they don't quite realise how silly they look sometimes when they come into our communities and tell us that. But our job at VFF is to share the message of agriculture, to advocate strongly for our farmers, whether it be with government, whether it be with industry, whether it even be with the community, and that's what we always endeavour to do, and that's the message we always push to get out there.
No, brilliant. I've seen a lot of videos of sort of younger people these days, and they'll go into a street and they'll say, do you know that agriculture represents 33% of the carbon and the greenhouse gases that's destroying the planet? And you'll get some stupid nuffy who goes, oh well, we better get rid of farmers. And I mean, that is as dumb as it gets, right? But sadly, these are the kind of people now who have come through the generations and are making policy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the challenge. It's one thing for a person to have a different worldview, a different life experience to what we have. It's a whole other different conversation when they start making decisions around what we should be doing with their land, or with our land, based on experiences that don't actually include being part of that land and part of those communities as well. Our job is to make sure that they understand the implications of what we're doing. And sometimes, some days, that's more easy than it is on other days.
Right, yes. I think we've shared a fair few battles over the years, and sometimes you just shake your head and you go, "What do these people get it at all?"
I think at the end of the day, the values of people who live in the city are not that dissimilar to ours. I think they want to raise a family, they want to feed them healthy food, they want to make sure they have opportunities to, excel at whatever they choose to enjoy and choose to do. our values are kind of the same. They also want to care for the environment. Our values are exactly the same. I think it's that difference in life experience that means when we look at how we care for the land, how we make it sustainable, how we continue to care for our community, our families, and create opportunities for them, we're seeing something very different to what they're seeing when they look at those same things. And I think one of the big, we always philosophise about that. When we all used to have that country cousin, all the people who lived in the city, and those days are gone. And it's true, those days are gone. But it doesn't mean that we can't, I guess, come together on the values that we both enjoy and we both believe in, and have those conversations, meaningful conversations around the life experiences that we both had differently. And if we could do that, and it's really easy to say it, a whole lot harder to do it, but if we could do that, I feel like we'd land in the same spot. I feel like we can actually both learn a little bit, because we should be challenged as farmers too. We want to be better tomorrow than what we are today, and one way that happens is when people challenge us with different views. But also, we also want city people to understand, what it is, what it means to produce food and fibre, what it means to do that at the same time as you're caring for the land and making sure the land is in a better condition for your children than it was when you took it on, and at the same time of all of that, be dealing with those challenges like droughts and floods and fires, and that we know are part of living in the land we love.
Well, yeah, 100%. And droughts and floods and fires, we get that. That's part of the deal.
Yeah.
We set up for that. We know this is happening. In Melbourne, and Sydney, we present a fair bit. Billboard Battalion, I present a fair bit in Melbourne, and we find that city people, if they know, if they understand, if they've got the information, what farmers are going through, they're 100% supportive. We did a bit of a protest down at the VFF offices there, maybe a couple of years ago when someone else...
I remember before my time.
Emma Germano did not come out to say g'day that day. She didn't come out, no. I'm not
I'll invite you out for scones and a cuppa.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, I won't have scones necessarily. We'll find something.
So, but on that day, the vast majority of people who attended for that protest that we did were city people.
Yeah.
They were many of the people that we've been presenting to with community groups and organisations. So we just need to, number one, get that message to those people about what we're dealing with and what the reality is, because going back to the original thing, there's a lot of authorities now and groups and people who are set up to demonise farmers and make them out to be the environmental bandits and all the rest of it. And as I said, they have specific policies to wipe us out. And they want to, thanks to Bill Gates and these other sort of people, they want to start producing food in labs. They want to make lab-made meat and all this sort of rubbish, this disgusting crap. So, and I want to try and help educate farmers onto how serious these people are not playing games. They're not mucking around. They're in the business of wiping out our on-the-land farmers. We've seen a lot now, a lot of chooks have been destroyed.
Yeah.
Now this is under the disguise of biosecurity. I've got people we talked to up in Queensland, they've got vets now crawling all over their places trying to find something wrong with cows, with the beef industry. And it's interesting, we're livestock here right now, this is the livestock conference. The red meat industry is being specifically targeted by the UN and the WHO to be wiped out. I was at a conference there only recently, a dairy conference, and one of the speakers, or the keynote speaker at this dairy conference, state conference, was actually a World Economic Forum presenter. And this bloke was a professor of some crap, I don't know what, but this is the point. He's a World Economic Forum presenter, presenting in Victoria at a dairy conference, telling us that 20% of Victorians now, Australians, don't eat meat, and that they can now make dairy products in a factory. Now this is at a dairy conference. I mean, what the hell's wrong with these people? But this is where we're going.
Well, I will say as an oat grower, I'm loving the oat milk trend. It's creating a market that we never thought was possible.
So oat juice.
Oat juice. I'm not sure who milks them, but they've got small hands.
As someone who's been milking cows for 3 generations, it's juice. Understand? You can't call it milk. So we're at a bit of a crossroads here. And I mean, when we see Victoria's new laws on, the emergency services and volunteers fund, that is catastrophic.
Yep.
When we see the new laws that they want to change about fines to farmers who want to stop people coming onto their land, now $12,200. That's a different thing altogether. We just went up a whole heap of levels in dictatorship, in illegality, in showing people. And this is only on paper at the minute. They haven't seen tractors at the gateway. They haven't, and our farmers, I'm trying to say, you're going to be dealing with United Nations troops, with police who are working for foreign corporations, and under this treaty, they have the power to do that. They have the power to say, if you're trying to stop government coming onto your land, that is now an offence under this international World Health Organization treaty. So, and what's happening here in Victoria with laws, Jacinta Allen, we've got a lot of our people are saying, that the fund or the emergency services tax, it's because Jacinta Allen can't run the state and she's trying to get the state back in balance. No, it's not. That's got nothing to do with it. They're taking instructions from international bodies who are telling them what to do. So this is one of the reasons why I'm saying we need to push back very, very hard and try and stop our politicians from joining us up to this thing. We've got to pull out. The US has pulled out. Israel has pulled out. There are a number of countries who have pulled out of this. They're sort of, hell no, because you literally are ceding your sovereignty and giving the total control of everything in your country to these terrorists. And that's what they are. The bloke who runs the WHO is literally a wanted international terrorist, literally. And these people are very, very seriously in the business of wiping us out. So I just wanted to try and get this conversation going because, I talk to a lot of cockies and, so on. And the majority of them go, I've never heard of this stuff, never. And so therefore, I've tried to talk to other leaders of farm representative lobby groups. I spoke to David Johinke at Beef Week in Rockhampton about 15 months ago, told him all of the same stuff. The National Farmers Federation, not interested at all, which is a major concern for me, huge red flag. And now when we see the ex-CEO, Tony Marr, who has left the NFF, now has a job as the Commissioner in charge of renewable infrastructure, like red lights across the board coming on, and we wonder why the NFF's not fighting for our farmers. So do you think there's anything we can do, Brett, to sort of use like the resources of the VFF or the NFF to try and put pressure on them to say, we need to tell our farmers what's actually happening?
I think the job is around how we get our message out there, and I really think it is. And we talked about those urban people that have the same values but have a different worldview. I don't think our politicians are immune from that either, and I think that's one of the big challenges that we have. People talk about these bubbles in politicians or in government, and sometimes they're kind of true. They're called that for a reason because you somehow need to get yourself on the inside of that bubble to be able to share that story and share that message, because when they're inside, they're having a lot of trouble seeing what's outside. So, that's a job for VFF. That's a job for you as well, Wade. Is to engage the community, engage the public, and share the story of how some of our some of the women and men in the room next door to us from the Beef and Livestock Conference are doing some amazing work, producing some of the safest, the healthiest, the most nutritious food and fibre products around the globe, and they're doing it right here in our backyard. And rather than rather than see them as a problem to be dealt with. We should actually be recognising them as for the good they're doing for our community and for our land. And I think I love events like this because they're a great opportunity when we can get right in front of those people and hear their stories and hear about not just about their farms and their businesses, because that's important, but also about their families, their communities, and what they're doing to build them up. Because I said that there's never been a government that has been able to support a rural community as anywhere near as much as successful farmers can.
Yes.
And so when we create farmers that are successful, we create communities that thrive and do well. So
Guaranteed.
That's what I think we're here to do. So, if anybody is listening and wants to know more about the story of agriculture in Victoria here in Australia, and please reach out to us at BFF, reach out to Wade as well. And as farmers, we love nothing more than talking about farming too. So,
and that is for sure. Now, just a couple of things just to finish on, Brett. And once again, thanks very much for your time. I know that I've got people to deal with there. We're trying to get contact with politicians and get them to talk about this. What's your opinion? Should they be talking to us? We're hearing nothing at all from mainstream media about this. We're trying to make public what's happening to our country, and we want these politicians to speak with us and say, okay, yes, this is happening. This is what the situation is. So for the first thing, just to finish up, do you think that they should be talking to us and let people in on information?
Yeah, look, I think there's a real opportunity to engage better. Yes, I think they should be engaging better. Sometimes in agriculture we haven't always engaged well. Sometimes when we have a crisis in agriculture we say the best thing we can do is shut up and just focus on our job. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes we've got to stop and we've got to talk to the community. We've got to talk to our politicians. And so we can do better as well, absolutely. At getting out and telling our story and building those relationships and letting them know that we are a valued part of the community and something that they don't want to lose.
Yep, no, fantastic. So, and just to finish up, are you interested at all in working together with us? Perhaps come down to Farrow House and do a bit of work together and say, let's bring some information to you fellas and to your staff, and you can sort of say, oh, okay, I didn't know this, but this is very serious stuff. Let's see what we can do to maybe work together.
I think there's always opportunities, and I'm a big one for collaboration.
Beautiful.
I always reckon we get more done working collaboratively than we do, working, separately. So whenever there's opportunities to collaborate, really happy to.
All right, mate. That's fantastic.
There'll be things we disagree on for sure, but let's do it in the spirit that we like that same thing. We all have values, and we all just have different ways of getting to the destination. So.
Absolutely. So, all right, mate. Well, thank you very much for that.
No, thanks for your time.
So much. I appreciate so much your coming away from the night before the conference there and talking to people. And but I mean, this is so serious, and we really need to punch as hard as we can. So, all right, everybody. So big thanks to Brett Hosking. We're really looking forward to doing some great work together. And we'll see what we can do, and we're going to have to fight a rearguard action. I think this thing's going to go over the line. I don't think the politicians are going to help us. I think they're totally committed to selling our country out. So we're going to have to realise that and fight a rearguard action to protect our farmers and our kids' futures and our food supply and our country.